Remember, I think we were 3-1 in counties that had the highest combat death ratios. I think we outpolled them. Polled them at the end 3-1 because we put the message where the people that needed to hear it and know that you've been dialed out forever, but now you're going to have a voice in the room, and that voice is going to be Donald Trump. Let's cut to the third week of January 2017. There's 2 speeches given, historic speeches. On Wednesday in Davos, my favorite town, right? Davos man. Have you seen these goofballs? Look, I was at Goldman Sachs, okay? I was in the M&A department at Goldman Sachs. These guys are the same collection of clowns. They go to all these conferences and know everything, and they're, Davos man. They're gonna solve all the world's problems, right? If you gave me the choice of how my country was gonna be governed, I would take the first 100 people that showed up here tonight versus the first 100 people that showed up at Davos. More grit, determination, common sense, understanding of humanity, right? You don't have to go to Harvard and Oxford and all these places. Look, I went to Harvard. I graduated with honors. It ain't that great, okay? My grandfather went to the 3rd grade. He had more common sense, understood more things. And all these guys, Davos man's a complete sham. At Davos, Xi shows up, President Xi. Remember, he gives that speech, the Save Globalization. The Economist, the Financial Times, all of them. He is the hero. He's the hero that's going to save globalization. In fact, he specifically puts all the problems in the world are on these populists and these nationalists, right? They're screwing up the system. System's got to be more globalized. And Xi is going to lead us to a great new dawning future. Look, the consulting firms, the accounting firms, the law firms, the investment banks, they all trade in one thing, that's information. They're plenty smart. They know about the gulags, okay? They know about the Dalai Lama and the Tibetan Buddhists. They know about the evangelical Christians and the Catholics. They know the gulag that Xi and Washi Shan run as a surveillance state on their own people. There's not a finer group of people in the world than the Chinese people. 1.4 billion people, 90 million members of the Communist Party. The 1.3 whatever billion don't own any property, no land. They own no stock. They own no assets. It's a totalitarian dictatorship as bad or worse as anything we saw in the 1930s. And Davos man knows that. So why is this guy held up as an all-conquering hero? You know why? Money. That's what they worship at Davos, money. They have zero moral authority to dictate to populists and nationalists and sovereignty anything. And the reason I love the kids across the street and the reason I go to Bergen and places like that and do these media conferences time and time again is because when they fully understand that they're being played, they're going to be on our side. Two days later, Trump gives the American Carnage speech. Oh my Lord, to see a meltdown. We kind of knew when we were helping President Trump write it, it would be a meltdown, right? Mainstream media, what had gotten so wrong the Trump campaign, and if you look at their Twitter feeds, they're all talking to each other, trying to break stories on Trump, right? New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, ABC, NBC, all of them. Huffington Post, some of Fox, right? Just like in the financial crisis, nobody's held accountable. In the mainstream media, they're all about transparency. They're all about accountability. We're here, they want to hold people accountable. Not one person fired. Show me an editor that's fired. Show me a producer that's fired. Show me a reporter that was fired for the biggest miss in media history. Show me one, because there's not. That's the system. Trump gives American Carnage, and we walk through exactly what's happened to the country. This speech is about the Westphalian system. It's about the nation state. It's done in juxtaposition to Brother Xi, because just like the EU, Xi doesn't want nation states. What they want is administrative units, right? They have a whole central plan, one belt, one road, made in China 2025, 5G rollout, this whole thing. I'll get into a little more detail in a minute. But it's essentially to turn everybody into a source of raw material, a market for end product, and maybe every now and again you will make some component parts for their advanced manufacturing system. And you'll be a nice administrative unit. That's the global system. That's what the EU is. The EU wants Italy to be South Carolina to France's North Carolina. The United States of Europe has been the driving concept of the Jean Monnet and now Macron faction for years. They're up front about it. Macron just did the Renaissance paper. He talks about it. More integration, more foreign policy integration. Now he wants his own army. That's going to go over well. I know a lot of Italian mothers are going to sign up to have their sons and daughters with French and German officers. The world just doesn't work like that. I'm not picking on the French and German. The French and German mother's not going to sign up to have it under Italian officers. Life just doesn't move like that. But the meltdown on American carnage was spectacular. Those two speeches lay it all out. These are two conflicting systems that are now on a collision course. Washington, D.C. today with this trade deal. It's not a trade deal. This is a truce in an economic war. The ballots you guys are going to cast in the European election. The reason, remember, all the mainstream media, all of a sudden, democracy's not working. Democracy's not working. You know what's not working? Because they're losing elections. Right? It's working fine when they're winning. Now they're losing. This is illiberal. And that's how we're going to beat them. We're going to beat them at the ballot box. History's on our side. The momentum's on our side. That's what's driving them nuts. That's why they got to have more identity politics. That's what I keep saying. When they start calling you a racist, when they start calling you a homophobe, when they start calling you a nativist, a xenophobe, a Islamophobe, all the concepts, right? Wear those accusations as a badge of honor. Because those accusations show they got nothing. They're never going to debate you on the facts. I'm living experience of that. I take over the campaign on a Saturday night, I think the 13th. Hillary Clinton's been on the beach, sunning. She's 12 or 14 points up. Why campaign? Let Trump just implode. She comes off the beach after a couple of days. We start tightening up some numbers. She comes off the beach in Reno. She gives her first speech in 3 weeks since the convention. It's on Breitbart, Bannon, the alt-right, white supremacy, white nationalism. I'm sitting in the control room. We got all the TVs. I got all the young people. And I just say, I said, nobody knows who Steve Bannon is, and they don't care. Lady, you're running to be commander-in-chief of the most powerful military force in world history, and you're talking about Breitbart? People around the country have to go, what is she doing? Remember, Trump had never been to Breitbart. They used to print every now and again some stories out, but he'd never been to the site. I told people right then, I said, hey, we focus on Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa. Actually, Trump said Minnesota. I waved off on that. My mistake. We only lost by 1 point. Pennsylvania. On economic nationalism. Remember, economic nationalism doesn't care about your ethnicity, doesn't care about your race, doesn't care about your religion, doesn't care how tall you are, what your size, shape you are, what your gender is, doesn't care about your sexual preference. It doesn't care about any of that. It cares about one thing. You're a citizen. Because as a citizen, you should get a special, better deal, not a worse deal. That's what the globalists have done. They've kind of flipped the thing upside down because they benefit from the system as it goes today. Two things happened off those speeches. One was the nullification project. This is the opposition party media, and I was the one that I'm proud to say came up with that name. Opposition party media, kind of the Democratic left a little bit, but this thing called the Resistance, and you saw it in also the corporatist in the city of London and Wall Street. The Wall Street crowd faction fought Trump every day, right? Particularly his trade policies. The nullification project was to delegitimize him as president about his election. So we had the Russian hoax for 2 years, of which President Trump said, I'm waiving executive privilege. I'm going to send all you guys up there. If you're at the port, I'm the one saying, hey, don't fire Comey. I think that's dumb. You can fire Comey. You've got the rights to do that, but you shouldn't do it. But on the investigation, I said, why are we waiving executive privilege? You've got, these are all privileges between the executive thing. No need to do that. Nope. He says, I want to get it all out there. 1.5 million documents, 500 witnesses, what? 2,200 subpoenas, everything. For what? Read the report. Nothing. Zero. But the mainstream media, every night, 3 things in the New York Times, CNN, all night long. If the New York Times didn't publish in the morning those stories, CNN would be a test pattern, right? Got to go off the paper record. So this resistance, and by the way, it happened twofold in the city of London with Brexit and in D.C. with Donald Trump. Why is that? Do you honestly think because you win an election, they're going to pat you on the head and say, hey, that's great. Here are the keys. Go do what you want. No, they are not. Okay? They are not. You're going to have to win election after election after election. No one election. They're good markers along the highway, but you have to keep winning. This is a process. So you had the nullification process, which 3 years into it, there's no Brexit. Heck, Nigel's created a new party, right? The Brexit party, right? He add Labour and the Tories up together don't even match him. So they stopped Brexit in its tracks, right? Took away legitimate vote of the British people. And they're trying to impeach Trump. And I tip my hat to them because I like a good fight. They did what the Tea Party did in 18. They focused on one thing, Donald Trump. They believe the progressive left and the opposition party media believe something the Republican establishment doesn't. They believe that Trump's a transformative figure and a historic president. And he's going to be in their lives 10, 20, and 30 years from now from two things, deconstruction of the administrative state and the judiciary. And the progressive left did what you have to do today to win. They mobilized. They went door to door, and it was a big defeat. 52-46 if you aggregate up the House vote, and I think it's 7 million votes. It's a forerunner to 20. You have to mobilize your base. And they all whine every day, democracy, Trump's so divisive, democracy's terrible. It's all. I said 113 million people voted in an off-year election. Biggest number we've ever had. So we had the nullification project. We had this resistance to Trump and to Brexit. But look at the wins we had. After the historic, quite frankly, big defeat of Macron defeating Le Pen, in the summer of 17, it looked bad. Salvini was at about 5 or 6%, I think, the Northern League. Bolsonaro was at 5%. Nigel Farage was out of the business. He was gone, okay? Vox was at 0.0. And Le Pen had basically the huge contention about, hey, should you just throw Front National under the bus and start a new party? That's the summer of 17. With Macron, remember, as soon as Macron won, every cover, the same magazines that had done The Economist, the Financial Times, all of them, populism's over. It's dead. Macron's the great savior of the globalist system. And look at what we've done since then. Salvini's huge victory in February of 18. Orban again in June, right? Le Pen now in the European parliamentary elections is polling above Macron. Vox just got 10% in a national election, and brother Nigel Farage created a party 3 weeks ago and is polling at 27%, right? Make sure you understand something. This is all with no money and no media platforms. Salvini won with Facebook Live. Bolsonaro won with Facebook Live. These campaigns took a couple of $1 million. But it is grit and determination and a message. And when people understand that message, and they understand that message is not racist, it's not nativist, it's not homophobic, right? It's about working class people and middle class people. They're finally saying enough's enough. This European parliamentary election, when I go around and talk to people, I say, hey, outside of England, nobody wants, they're all Eurosceptics, but they don't want to break up the EU. They kind of want to do what the very wise men and women in Norway did back in the early 90s. If you go back and look at those debates, it's the same debate that's going on today in May of 19. It's all about sovereignty. The big thing was that if we vote ourselves, we're already in the common market, we got the economic deal, but if you vote ourselves into the political deal, we're going to give up the sovereignty of our country, and we may give up the sovereignty we have as citizens to control these politicians, to a bunch of unelected, nameless, faceless bureaucrats in Brussels. The debate was very intense, and I think it was 52-48. For the second time, you voted not to join. And the wisdom of that, and if you go back and look at the debates, it's the same debate today. They're not trying to break up and destroy the EU. They're saying, we don't want Macron's United States of Europe. We want a Europe of nations. We want Hungary to be Hungary, France to be France, Italy to be Italy. We all have unique problems and issues in our country, and we're proud of our countries. People say, Bannon, why are you running around Europe? I'm running around Europe. I come from a blue-collar family. Front National, the Swiss People Party, asked me to come over, and I said, what do you want me to talk about? And they said, just tell us we're not alone. Well, you're not alone. I've been all throughout Asia, Latin America, Europe, the United States. We are the majority. We just have to mobilize our vote, and we have to get candidates out that understand that and hold.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe The Voice of Agor Media.